In his book, Khatm al-Awliya, which was lost for a long time, but was rediscovered recently by Professor Uthman Yahya in Cairo. In that book, and in other treatises attributed to Hakim al-Tirmidhi, he raised these questions. And it is implicit that the person who answers these questions is capable of attaining the rank of Wilaya, which very poorly translated in English means sainthood. But it is a function that has more of a cosmic order to it, in the sense that it is an attribute of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the questions of Al-Hakim al-Tirmidhi that he posed were basically a test, if that's the right word, for subsequent sages to see if they can answer them, and if they can attain to this manzila, this abode of wilaya. And Ibn Arabi was the first one, and as far as I know, the only one who has answered these questions in their totality. These questions go to the heart of the knowledge of the unseen and the ilm al-laduni, so they are not really questions that are only of a didactic nature. They are not questions only for intellectual pretensions. They are questions that have in themselves the functions of election and selection. Now, not all these questions are really pertinent to what inshallah we'll be able to talk about today. So I have tried to select those that have a function and a purpose and will help us inshallah on the path towards greater knowledge and understanding, and in the path towards the Hadra Rabbaniya, the divine presence. That is not to say that those that we have not looked at today are not important. They are obviously important in and of themselves, but some of them are of a technical nature and might not be very useful to elaborate on today. So, may Allah protect us from knowledge that is not useful. In the word of today, we ask for Allah's protection from knowledge that is not useful. Inshallah, this knowledge will be nafi', will be useful. And nafi' not in the sense that it will add to our intellectual baggage or to our ability to discuss with others the finer points of gnosis or arfan or tasawwuf, but that it helps us, inshallah, towards the path to which we all aspire. I have here about 40 questions that I'll try to again to combine some of them and hope to be able to choose the ones that are most pertinent to us, inshallah. Bismillah. First question that I've chosen, inshallah, today is actually question number 23 that has been posed by the great sage Al-Hakim al-Tirmidhi. He asks a question which Ibn Arabi answers. What does the saying of the Prophet ﷺ that كان الله ولا شيء معه, Allah was and there was nothing with him, and to continue, and he is now as he was then. Ibn Arabi answers by saying that the attributes of thingness, something that has manifest substantiation, cannot be applied to the divinity, cannot be applied to Allah. So, thingness attributed to Allah by itself is a negation. Allah is not attributable or cannot be understood by any of the manifestations, any of the reflections of thingness. Anything that is considered belonging to something or is associated with something cannot be associated with or attributed to Allah. So the saying of the Prophet ﷺ that Allah was and there was nothing with him, and he is now as he was then, goes to the heart of the non-understanding of the divinity from the perspective of material existence and from the perspective of thingness. That is, any attempt, therefore, going one step beyond that, any attempt to pass along the hierarchy of knowledge through reason, through intellectualization, cannot allow us into the divine presence, because knowledge in the intellectualization form is the ability to manipulate created effects, things. Wallahu a'lam. Another saying of the Prophet ﷺ, which the Hakim asks, the Prophet ﷺ says in a hadith, خلق الله الخلق في ظلمة. Allah created creation in darkness. Ibn Arabi starts by selecting Quranic verses that relate to the question. They may not appear to be directly connected at first, but as he elaborates them, we see how the answer fits in with the sublime wisdom in the Quranic verse, which goes a long way into understanding the heart of what Ibn Arabi is saying, which is anchored in the Quran. Without deep knowledge of the Quran, without the ability to interpret and undertake ta'weel of the Quran, that is to go into its inner secrets, it is not possible for any person, and by that I mean Ibn Arabi, to reach the height of sagacity and wisdom that he did. So in the Quran and within the Quran and by the Quran, so the answers to all the questions. It says, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, وَاللَّهُ أَخْرَجَكُم مِّن بُطُونِ أُمَّهَاتِكُمْ لَا تَعْلَمُونَ شَيْئًا. Allah created you from the wombs of your mothers, not knowing anything. وَجَعَلَ لَكُمُ السَّمْعَ وَالْأَبْصَارَ وَالْأَفْئِدَةَ. And He created for you the ability to hear, the ability to see, and the inner heart, which is the fu'ad. And it is from these faculties, the inner heart, the inner sight, and the inner hearing, that light in its manifestations in the form of knowledge passes. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran that He created us not knowing anything, that is, in a state of darkness, in a state of absolute non-knowing. And He gave us the instruments by which light that is the opposite of darkness can be confirmed and ascertained by us. So knowledge prior to Allah's gift to us of the inner sight, the inner hearing, and the inner heart, which is the fuad, is non-existent. It is in darkness. And it is only through the light of Allah, manifested in our ability to comprehend light through these faculties that the Quran says Allah gave us, is the confirmation of the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ that creation was created out of darkness. It is out of the darkness of not knowing. It is out of the darkness of ignorance, not of material things, but of ignorance of non-creation. So we have been given, as part of our not knowing, we have been given the instruments by which we know. If we don't use these instruments, darkness is still total. One of the questions that is frequently asked, and I think Shaykh Fadhlalla from time to time mentions as being a key ability in man that we must nurture, is fatra, the word fatra. And Hakim al-Tirmidhi asks in question number 43, what is fatra? What is this primal crack? In Arabi's answer to what is this primordial instinct that allows us to differentiate between light and darkness, he says that fitra it's a light through which the darkness of possibilities is torn asunder. What does that mean? He goes back to the Quranic verses. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah, Fatir al-Samawati wal-Ard. Praise be to Allah who cracks open the earth and the skies. And he relates that to another ayah which says, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Allah who nur al-Samawati wal-Ard. Allah is the light of the heavens and the earth. So he's saying that to Arabi's answer to what is fitra, it is that innate light that is within all created beings, by which furqan, by which discrimination can come about. And it is this innate light which the person who is in a state of fitra is allowed to witness the mushahada and is allowed to be in a state of potential knowledge. It is the light, the innate light in us, that is of divine origin, that allows us to discriminate and differentiate. And he relates this innate light to the Quranic verse which we talked about last time, is Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alastu bi Rabbikum faqalu bala. Am I not your Lord? And they all assented. They said, yes, here you are. So fatra, the innate light, and the primordial covenant are all covered under one umbrella, all covered under one profoundly explanatory explanation of what fitra is. Unfortunately, a lot of these terms again have been abused and misused over time. And now if you ask an Arab, what does a person who is fatir mean? Instead of answering that in what would be the correct way, that he's a person with a profound sense of innate light, it turns out that the modern answer is he's a silly person. So the whole world has been changed and altered, and any significant meaning to it, which is one of the highest faculties, one of the highest attributes that a person of enlightenment can have, is that it's a knowledge of the primordial fissure that put us all into manifested creation, has now been turned into a word of abuse and pejorative. Another question. Hakim al-Tirmidhi asks, what does the banner of praise mean? Ma liwa al-hamd. And al-hamd is praise, the banner of praise. It's the banner that we use every time we recite Surah Al-Fatiha. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alamin. All praise is Allah. The Arabi says that the banner of praise, liwa al-hamd, is one of the highest and most complete form of praise. It is the banner around which all men, all persons of enlightenment revolve, because it is the mark and level. I'm now quoting of a translation of this section. The banner of praise is a praise of praises, the most complete praise, the highest and most elevated praise in level. People gather around the banner since it is the mark of the level and existence of the king. In the same way, all praises gather around the praise of praises, since it is a correct praise which has nothing equivocal about it. In order to merit the banner of praise, and Ibn Arabi says that the holder of the liwa al-hamd in the hierarchy of the divine order is the Prophet ﷺ. He says, in order to merit the banner of praise, the Prophet ﷺ will praise his Lord by the Quran, which brings together all praises. So liwa al-hamd is the Quran in its totality. So when we say that the Quran is the al-Kitab and is the bringer of all the attributes and the ways in which we interact with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it is the banner of praise, it is the liwa al-hamd. And in the divine order, the upholder of this banner, person who holds the flag, is the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. One of the most important questions, I think, in the whole litany of questions raised by Hakim al-Tirmidhi is, what is sujood? What is the meaning of the act of prostration? I'm sure all of us have heard Shaykh Fadhlalla on numerous occasions talk about the need for us to disappear into our sajda, to bring ourselves to the point of nothingness while we are in a state of prostration. So the answer to this question is a key to understanding the role of the abd, the role of the person in servanthood, and the meaning of ubudiyyah, the meaning of servanthood. In the salat, we terminate the salat by, in the shahada, وَأَشْهَدُ أَنَّ مُحَمَّدًا عَبْدُهُ وَرَسُولُهُ. We say that, we witness that the Prophet ﷺ is the servant and then the messenger of Allah. So the state of ubudiyyah through which we interact with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the proper adab and courtesy to it is to be in a state of sajda. So Ibn Arabi says, and again I would like to translate for you here because it's a very important question. This book I'm quoting is called, by a person called William Chittick, if anybody is interested. It's called The Sufi Path of Knowledge, and it's possibly the best exposition in English of the wisdom of Ibn Arabi. In answering Tirmidhi, quoting Chittick, Ibn Arabi goes to the heart of this richly symbolic act. Everything which prostrates itself bears witness to its own root, from which it is all absent by being a branch. When a thing is diverted from being a root by being a branch, it is said to it, seek that which is absent from you, your root from which you have emerged. So the thing prostrates itself to the soil which is its root. The spirit prostrates itself to the Ruh al-Kull, the universal soul, from which it has emerged. The inmost consciousness, our self, prostrates itself to its Lord by means of whom it has achieved its level. All roots are unseen, are in a state of ghaib. Do you not see how they become manifest in trees? The roots of trees are unseen, for the act of bringing to be, in Arabic takween, is unseen. No one witnesses the embryo coming to be in the womb of its mother, so it is unseen. Some animals come to be inside an egg. When the animal is perfected, the egg breaks. The root of the existence of the things is the real, the haqq, and he is unseen by them. Kings are saluted because subjects stand below them. The king possesses highness and tremendousness. Hence, when a person below him enters in upon him, he prostrates himself before him as if to say, my station in relation to you is the station of the low in relation to the high. The angels prostrate themselves to the level of knowledge. Their prostration is their words, we have no knowledge, so they are ignorant. Shadows prostrate themselves because of witnessing those who are outside of themselves, the objects which throw the shadow. The shadow of the object becomes hidden from the light by the root from which it arose, lest the light annihilate it. When the heart prostrates itself, it never rises up, since its prostration is to the divine names. For the names have made it a heart, a qalb. In Arabic, qalb means the thing that turns. That is why it is called a heart. When the real, the haqq, discloses himself to the heart as the cause of fluctuation, the munqalib, it sees itself in the grasp of him who makes it fluctuate. So sajda in our salat is the heart of our ubudiyyah. It is the epitomization of the servanthood of a person to the real. And this, in my mind, is the true function of this, in the outer form, this act which those who are not in a state of enlightenment, or those who are not in Islam, see it as a state of reducing man. But it is nothing but the highest form of elevation, to be in the lowest form of servanthood. to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Next question, that the whole set of questions relate to the secrets of the Fatiha, Surah Al-Fatiha. From the Ba of the Bismillah, from the dot to the Ba. Hakim al-Tirmidhi raises these questions awaiting an answer. The answers of Ibn Arabi to the secrets of the inner secrets of Surah Al-Fatiha have been the cornerstone anchor of all subsequent tafsirs of Surah Al-Fatiha, whether it's acknowledged or not. Before I came here, I read part of the tafsir of the great Indian alim on the Fatiha, Al-Kalam Azad, and there is no doubt that large sections of it, although he would be very astonished to know that he had borrowed from Ibn Arabi, in fact, half from Ibn Arabi, and all the tafasir of all the great sages over the past 800 years since the death of Ibn Arabi have relied extensively on the answers to Hakim Tirmidhi's questions on the ta'wil of Bismillah. What does Bismillah mean? I would be somewhat hesitant, and I would say that in going into the Ibn Arabi's ta'wil of both the Fatiha and of the Quran as a whole, because it is seen from the eyes of haqiqah. It is not seen by the eyes of a person whom we can normally expect to be an mufassir or person who can normally comment on the Quran. And the tafsir of those in a state of haqiqah cannot be understood except by those who are advanced on the path. The reason is that to see from the eyes of haqiqah means to have absolute certainty that there is no existence and no reality except Allah. And therefore all actions owe their primary motive force and cannot exist without Allah. The eye of haqiqah has been misread and misinterpreted over time by people who have turned it upside down. They have turned it into an accusatory statement. If one truly is in a state of haqiqah, and he truly knows by ma'rifah and yaqeen, through knowledge and certainty, that all is Allah and nothing exists but Allah, therefore all actions emanate from Allah. That does not necessarily mean that actions and descriptions of those who commit actions in the eyes of Sharia and even in the eyes of those who are on the tariqah but have not reached haqiqah do not hold true. They all hold true. So the ta'wil of the Quran from this perspective is a very subtle and a very it has to be seen and appreciated with the right adab and the right courtesy. It has been used in the past to, as I said, to turn it against Ibn Arabi and to accuse him, and even all those who follow in that path of being outside of the boundaries of Islam. I do not believe that. I cannot believe that, because the eyes of haqiqah can only be understood by those in haqiqah. The various names that we associate with those who are castigated by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the kuffar, the envious, those who are unjust, zalimun, those who are astray, dhalun, those who are in a state of wonder, taihun. In the normal understanding of those who are, and correctly so, of those who observe the outer limits of the law, and those who observe the outer limits of the law and try to understand the inner meanings of ta'wil, are words of opprobrium. They are words that indicate that we should distance ourselves from these people, that we should distance ourselves from these actions, that we should distance ourselves from association with these people. Ibn Arabi says, those who read and understand the Quran, in addition to knowledge of Sharia, but see it from the eyes of haqiqah, read it differently than the way we do. The hasidun, the envious, he says, are those who envy divine characteristics and want to acquire them. So instead of being something that's blameworthy, it becomes something that is praiseworthy when seen in the eyes of haqiqah. Those who are in a state of, say, wandering, dhalun, they are wandering because they are seeking the divine presence. So those whom we normally associate as those who are wandering away from the deen, seen from the eyes of haqiqah, are those who are wandering towards Allah. And this has been a point of contention. He uses the mushrikun, those who associate others with Allah, as being in reality the muwahhidun, that is those who only see the unity of Allah, because Allah says in the Quran, you call me by the name of Allah or the Rahman. So those who are seeking the attributes of divinity, those who are in a state where they are involved in the attributes of divinity, are the mushrikun, because they see all of these attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the ta'wil of the Quran, the commentary on the Quran, from those who are in a state of haqiqah, and not those who understand it intellectually, but those who live it, might very well be opposed to what we normally think. Which brings him to the critical point, is that the Quran is an ocean. It is an ocean for every person as he sees it from his perspective. Those who see only good will see good in all. Those who want to have explanations for acts of injustice see it also in terms of the shara and the adl. So this ocean with no shore, this ocean with no depth, is the book for mankind. So the ta'wil of Ibn Arabi, from the perspective of those in a state of haqiqah, who see nothing but Allah, must be true, because there is nothing but Allah. So all the mushrikun, all the dhalun, all the kuffar, they are in the pattern of Allah's schemes. Those who try to understand Ibn Arabi, or those who try to understand all the great Gnostics, and those who aspire to this stage of this abode of knowledge and wisdom, must understand that their perceptions are going to alter as they go on. As you go, move on, and as you enter into more and more into the realm of haqiqah, nothing stands but Allah. There is only the face of Allah. Everything else is annihilated. كل من عليها فان ويبقى وجه ربك ذو الجلال والإكرام. All is annihilated except the face of Allah. If all is annihilated, then Allah is all, and we are just passing reflections of the divine wind, Nafs al-Rahman, the divine breath. Last week, one of the sisters here stated that we should not worship this knowledge that we have. We only worship Allah. And we can be carried away by the elegance of the knowledge of the inner, by the elegance of tasawwuf, and by the elegance of Arfan and Gnosticism. And it will put us in a state of arrogance and self-love, denying knowledge and denying gnosis to those who have not had the benefit of the company of lovers of Allah, and who have not had the benefit of magnificent teachers to Allah, such as Shaykh Fadhlalla. I believe that the knowledge that is in some of the works of Ibn Arabi, which I believe is a knowledge that is acquired from his position as a wali, but a wali to the only wali, who is Allah, and a wali to the Wilaya of Imam Ali alayhi salam, then it becomes knowledge that is nafi', that is in the word that we read. May Allah grant us knowledge that is nafi', not knowledge by which we seek domination and dominance and preference of others. Inna akramakum indallah atqakum. Those who are most in favor of Allah are those who are most in a state of precautionary fear and awe, a state of taqwa. So I must say that I was a bit shaken by the seeds of intellectual arrogance and pretensions that comes from having a flavor and a taste for inner knowledge. But when we say Allah, we all know that knowledge is from Allah, and it is by that knowledge, inshallah, that we return to Allah. Inna Allah wa inna ilayhi raji'un. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين.
Any questions or?
Some people might not understand all the Arabic terms you use that. I'm not sure of all of them. Would you mind just...
I'll try to repeat them.
What each one means for us who are not so knowledgeable.
Mushrikun is the those who associate others with Allah. And the Quran says that Allah does not forgive those who are, He forgives all except those who associate with Him. Now you cannot associate with Allah, with the Ahad, with the One. That's what Ibn Arabi is saying. The association with one is not possible because there is one. It is who. However, association of those in haqiqah with the names of Allah is possible. You can try to be Rahman. You can try to be Ghafoor. You can try to be the compassionate, the merciful, the powerful, the loving. The association of the names of Allah for those in a state of true haqiqah, that is those who have gone through annihilation and have seen their continuation in Allah, is possible at that level. So, when we read the Quran, we condemn rightly those who say Allah is one out of three, or those who say associate names or actions with Allah. This is not possible, and it is in our state of enlightenment, in our state of being, this kind of shirk, this kind of association is condemned in the Quran and is unforgivable. But those in a state of haqiqah, those in a state of total immersion in the divine unity, in the tawheed, to them, shirk, though not possible and though condemned in the sense that when they say I, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would say, who are you? Can associate with the attributes of Allah, can try to associate with the attributes of Allah, and they may see themselves in a state of haqiqah and enlightenment in being in that state. But ahadiyya, or the solitary unicity of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is not possible because all is Allah. The other words that I think I have used, I tried to, and I say the Arabic word, I tried to attach to it the English meaning. Dhalun are those who are astray. Tarihun are those who are wandering. Fujjar are those who commit acts of indecency. Dhalimun are those who exercise injustice and oppress people. Munafiqeen from the eyes of haqiqah also fit in the scheme of things. But this should not, again I want to be, really this is a very, very critical point. Those who are Sharia minded, when given these explanations, immediately condemn it, and I believe rightly so. This is, you cannot say that I'm a mushrik and it's praiseworthy because I want to associate with the names or the divine attributes. You can only say that to yourself if you're in a state of haqiqah. And if you're in a state of haqiqah, you do not go on announcing it to people. So it is basically an attack against pseudo-Sufis also, who wander the world trying to operate at the borders of Sharia and the borders of what is permissible, by going back to what Ibn Arabi says in these various. What Ibn Arabi says is specific to a certain category of beings who can see totally with inner sight, have no outer sight, do not understand, cannot associate things in the normal way that we do. Those whose sight is inverted. I don't mean who are metaphorically blind, but actually see with the ayn al-basira, with the inner sight.